There is a profound paradox at the center of Isaiah 48. God is addressing a specific group of people who maintain a highly devout outward appearance, yet their internal posture is one of total rebellion. To understand how God dismantles this facade, we have to look at his exact words. The chapter begins in Isaiah 48, verse 1. "Hear ye this, O house of Jacob, which are called by the name of Israel, and are come forth out of the waters of Judah, which swear by the name of the Lord, and make mention of the God of Israel, but not in truth, nor in righteousness." By addressing the house of Jacob, the text encompasses all the tribes of Israel, drawing attention to their shared lineage. The phrase waters of Judah operates as a genealogical metaphor. Just as water flows from a fountain, this population has flowed directly from their progenitor, Judah. Isaiah continues this geographic and religious framing in verse 2. "For they call themselves of the holy city, and stay themselves upon the God of Israel. The Lord of hosts is his name." Looking at these stone ruins of Jerusalem, we see the literal foundation of their confidence. The people relied heavily on their proximity to the holy city. They stayed themselves upon the God of Israel, meaning they adopted his titles and claimed allegiance to him as a badge of security. Yet, as verse 1 established, they did this not in truth nor in righteousness. They took the oaths and spoke the name of the Lord, but their internal lives were entirely disconnected from the moral demands of that covenant. Adopting the language and occupying the geographic location of a covenant means nothing without genuine obedience. Because the people were hiding behind a religious facade, God steps in to break the illusion. God's method for breaking the illusion is detailed in Isaiah 48, verse 3. "I have declared the former things from the beginning, and they went forth out of my mouth, and I shewed them. I did them suddenly, and they came to pass." This painting of an approaching ancient army illustrates the sudden events God is referring to. He previously declared the collapse of the Syria-Israel confederacy, as well as the devastating Assyrian attacks on both Israel and Judah. He spoke them, and then they happened exactly as described. He explains the necessity of this approach in verse 4. "Because I knew that thou art obstinate, and thy neck is an iron sinew, and thy brow brass." The phrase iron sinew is a metaphor taken directly from agriculture. It describes an untamed, stubborn ox that rigidly refuses to bow its neck to receive the yoke. The people were entirely unteachable. Similarly, having a brow of brass describes a posture of absolute impudence and insolence. They were hardened against instruction. Because of this hardening, God lays out his strategy in verse 5. "I have even from the beginning declared it to thee. Before it came to pass, I shewed it thee, lest thou shouldest say, Mine idol hath done them, and my graven image and my molten image hath commanded them." This is the core logic of predictive prophecy here. God preemptively declared these specific military and historical outcomes before they occurred, so the population could never claim ignorance or attribute the events to chance. Notice this small black figurine and these wooden statues. These represent the exact types of pagan idols the people were worshipping. By predicting the future accurately, God prevented the Israelites from giving credit for historical events to these lifeless carved blocks of wood and molten metal. Prophecy in Isaiah is deployed as an epistemological weapon. It is designed to dismantle the falsehood of idolatry by proving that only the God of Israel controls history. Having established his authority over past events, God pivots to the future in Isaiah 48, verse 6. "Thou hast heard, see all this, and will not ye declare it? I have shewed thee new things from this time, even hidden things, and thou didst not know them." God demands they seriously examine the evidence. He then promises new predictions concerning their eventual exile and deliverance. This aerial view of the reconstructed Babylonian mud brick city shows the massive scale of the captivity they will face and the magnitude of their eventual liberation by Cyrus. He clarifies the timing of these predictions in verse 7. "They are created now, and not from the beginning, even before the day when thou heardest them not, lest thou shouldest say, Behold, I knew them." These specific revelations regarding Babylon are brought to light now. The timing is exact. By revealing these details just before the exile, God strips the people of any opportunity to claim they deduced the political outcome through their own sagacity. God addresses their historical character in verse 8. Yea, thou heardest not. Yea, thou knewest not. Yea, from that time that thine ear was not opened, for I knew that thou wouldest deal very treacherously, and was called a transgressor from the womb. The title, Transgressor from the Womb, traces Israel's history of rebellion all the way back to its inception. The womb represents the day the nation was delivered out of Egypt. This ancient stone relief depicts the early roots of this behavior. Immediately following their exodus, the Israelites constructed a golden calf at the foot of Mount Sinai. Their transgression began at the exact moment of their birth as a nation. That initial failure was followed by a relentless series of infractions. They chased after Edomite women under Balaam's influence, set up idols in the northern tribes, and under King Ahaz, they adopted Assyrian gods, closed the temple, and sacrificed their own children. Israel's persistent historical track record of rebellion necessitated a severe, calculated divine intervention. Left to their own devices, they would have completely destroyed themselves. Instead of immediate annihilation, God explains his measured response in Isaiah 48, verse 9. For my name's sake will I defer mine anger, and for my praise will I refrain for thee, that I cut thee not off. Though their actions warranted immediate destruction, God defers his anger. As we watch these ancient exiles, we see a people spared from total eradication. God restrains his wrath to protect his covenantal reputation, ensuring his name is not blasphemed among the observing Gentile nations. The timeline of this deferment is highly specific. While the Babylonians conquer Jerusalem, a remnant is preserved. The final, absolute judgment of the city is delayed for centuries, ultimately falling in 70 AD under the Romans. During this period of deferred judgment, God employs a specific mechanism, detailed in verse 10. Behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. In this depiction of an ancient metallurgical furnace, we see the physical process Isaiah describes. The furnace of affliction is an intentional tool. It relies on adversity to purge impurities and burn away dross, sanctifying the soul of the nation. But the metallurgical metaphor holds a critical limitation. God explicitly states he will refine them, but not with silver. Silver requires the hottest, most intense, and longest-lasting fire of all metals. If God applied the rigorous standard of justice required to refine silver, the furious heat would wholly consume Israel. The 40 years in the wilderness, the Assyrian invasion, and the Babylonian exile are profound acts of mercy. They are justice carefully tempered by a creator who seeks to purify his people rather than annihilate them. God summarizes his ultimate motivation in Isaiah 48, verse 11. For mine own sake, even for mine own sake will I do it. For how should my name be polluted? And I will not give my glory unto another. God's highest motivation is the preservation of his own glory. He acts definitively for his own sake to ensure his character and power remain entirely unpolluted. If God failed to deliver Israel from Babylon, the surrounding nations would interpret his inaction as impotence. His divine properties would be falsely ascribed to pagan gods, validating the very idolatry he despises. To prevent this, God utilized predictive prophecy as a tool to permanently break the illusion of idolatry. He utilized the furnace of affliction as the precise mechanism to cure Israel's obstinate nature without destroying them in the process. Looking over this sweeping landscape of ancient Jerusalem, we see the result of that divine logic. The deliberate deferment of God's wrath ultimately secured the survival of the remnant and preserved his sovereign reputation among the nations. This concludes our overview.